And that's the start of episode 40. Okay.
20 years of trying, 20 years.
And Senna sprints away. Banana
straight. Rossi's right in behind Lorenzo.
The 101st Indianapolis 500 is won by Takuma Sato. Dale Earnhardt will come to the caution flag to win the Daytona 500.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 40 of the Clutch Dump. Guys, welcome. Come on in. Take a seat. Join us. We have a lot to talk about. We have World Superbike. We have Formula One. We have IndyCar. We have NASCAR. All of which were action-packed, had surprises, had interesting / fan favorite results. We had a lot going on, and it is all happening right here on episode 40 of the Clutch Dump. But before we get any further into this episode, make sure you're following us on all these podcasting platforms, whether it's Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, wherever the hell else you listen, Pandora maybe, if that's still a thing. Also, if you're watching us, you'll see that I'm very coordinated in my Alonso gear with my Alonso beer. That rhymed. I love that. Make sure to drop a subscription, turn on that notification bell, and make sure to like the video because we are here. We are here to stay, and the F1 season is officially fully underway. I know I've said that the last few episodes, but it really feels
and we're going to keep
like
saying it.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Like second to last penultimate race of the season, we are officially underway.
F1 season has officially started.
So
we're officially in the F1 race.
I know it seems a little crazy, but I'm just going to go ahead and just drop this here.
Oh my gosh. This is ladies and gentlemen, this is what I was worried about. This is what I have been dreading since lap 47.
Well, you know what's funny is I'm wearing my Alonso hat. I'm wearing my Alonso shirt.
Correct.
That's also Ferrari because thanks to Ferrari, Alonso got a podium. So
This is true.
I'm paying tribute to Ferrari. Thank you. I'm cheering for Alonso and its color. I mean, come on.
I'm wearing a generic F1 t-shirt and a Yamaha hat because
you are.
It's me.
It's me, Mario.
Also because it's the only Formula One related gear I own.
So, where do you want to start, lovely Ben Walder?
No,
where would you like to start?
Where do you want to start, Nick?
I actually kind of want to start with NASCAR. I'm down to just get that out of the way.
Well, then by all means, what happened in the world of left turns? Because it is the only thing in our notes that I did not watch this weekend.
Well, that's funny because I didn't watch it either due to my Fox Sports app not working. But
unfortunate.
William Byron is your winner in a fairly surprise result. Joey Logano had a weird accident. He got turned coming out of NASCAR 4 and came across it's not a trioval, but came across the grass in front of the pit lane. Got airborne. It was the whole thing. Let's see. What else was there? Chase Elliott has broken multiple bones and he's out for months. So that's, like, regardless of what happened in the race, the biggest news is Chase Elliott is out for months. Somebody replaced him in the race, and I am pulling up Twitter momentarily to confirm that. And while I do,
he's struggling, people. It's all falling apart.
Yeah, okay, it's not saved in my Twitter bookmarks.
He was cool. Only prepared to talk about his Spaniard.
He was replaced by somebody, but there's
you
been
said
a
it
lot.
In the last episode.
Listen. There's been a lot of controversy again. In the NASCAR world over the Fox broadcast. People are really upset with the coverage and with the amount of commercial breaks and the way that Fox is covering it. Apparently, Danica Patrick was part of the broadcast team, which that was strange. And we also learned this last week that Tony Stewart was fired from Fox Sports for next year, and he's getting replaced by Kevin Harvick. And that has nothing to do with him going full-time racing. He was going to do both. And Fox was like, you know what? Nah. 2024, we want Kevin Harvick in the booth.
By the way, Josh Berry.
Berry, thank you.
That's who replaced
him. I was going to say Josh Berry, but I didn't know for sure.
Of course you were.
As we transition now to Formula One.
Is that where we're going? Is that what's happening?
I think so. I think I'm decided.
Well, I mean, before we get to Formula One, I just want to check how was your weekend? Did you watch anything else that wasn't Formula One?
So I was going to watch IndyCar.
How'd that go?
Well, I was at a Mexican restaurant that the Wi-Fi didn't allow me to get on to Peacock, and the service was spotty enough that I wasn't able to stream it. Peacock just kept perpetually loading, so I didn't get to watch that either.
The race wasn't on Peacock anyway, so.
It said it was online.
Was it?
Yeah.
I thought everything but the race was on Peacock. I thought the race was on NBC Sports.
All I can tell you is that it was on Peacock as well. But
Okay.
Totally unrelated. I did watch the highlights, though, on YouTube that they put up, and I know the results. Speaking of the results... Well, okay, fine. You've just segued us into IndyCar somehow.
Nick, literally the results are on the notes page in front of your face. I gave you
son of a gun.
notes.
Okay.
I made a chart and everything. Everything you could ever need to know.
IndyCar results. We had a former F1 driver on pole, and we were all excited because we wanted said F1 driver to win. And then another ex-F1 driver won, and said ex-F1 driver crashed. So Romain Grosjean was on pole yesterday.
He was.
And it was
very
like a Cinderella
exciting.
story. We were all ecstatic. We were energetic. We were enthused that Romain had put that car on pole for Andretti.
Yep.
In his DHL car. Didn't last long, and Marcus Ericsson is the other F1 driver that ended up winning, which good for him.
Sure.
Because a lot of people, winning the Indy 500, were like, well, that's kind of a fluke.
Going into being a rather green IndyCar fan, and not having a team to follow or anything like that. I know who Romain Grosjean is, so I was a big fan. Very excited for him to be on pole, but on lap 71, 74, something like that. Scott McLaughlin.
You have the notes right in front of you.
Yeah, but I didn't write down the lap number.
Well,
but I just remember. But I believe it was lap 71. Scott McLaughlin of the number 3 Penske car and Romain Grosjean of the number 28 DHL car had contact going into turn 14 because
there was a lot of
some reason
in this race.
Everyone wrecked going into turn 14. Grosjean was going on the outside of McLaughlin. McLaughlin cold tires, Grosjean warm tires, and McLaughlin basically just couldn't make that tight of a turn, and they made contact, went into the tire barrier, and that was the end of Grosjean's race. After that incident, Pato O'Ward of Aero McLaren would take the lead and would lead all the way up until lap 97, when on the straight his McLaren developed a misfire, and he would be passed by one Marcus Ericsson, who, as we said, is the 2020 Indy 500 champion, and would go on to win the opening round of IndyCar for 2023.
So, I want to hear your thoughts, as like you said, a green IndyCar fan. What'd you think?
Dude, it was such a good race. I enjoyed, I was on top of it this weekend. I watched practice, I watched qualifying, I watched all of it.
Oh, yeah.
Qualifying format's a bit weird to get used to, but as I've realized, no racing series has the same qualifying format as anyone else. They're all different. I don't know why it's not just like, here's a racetrack. Whoever goes fastest in the next 30 minutes, that's where you start.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know why we do that. I don't know why it's like, oh, we're going to split it into 2 groups, and the top 6 go together, and the top 6 go to another thing. And then that's the...
I actually kind of like that over the F1 one. Same thing with NASCAR, where it's like, you have run groups, and the fastest of each of those groups then just go head-to-head.
Right, and then it turns into another group, which, is cool because it could be, Grosjean didn't win any of the run groups except for the last one.
Exactly.
Which is when it counted. And I'm not a diehard Indy fan yet, so I don't know the details of what tires you're allowed to use and fuel and all that stuff.
Right, me neither.
I don't know the nitty-gritty of it. Grosjean was on pole. Super stoked for that. But we had, what am I looking at here? That's 7, 8, 9, 10 DNFs. We had 10 DNFs from this race, 18th all the way down to 27th. And the big incident came in turn 14.
Yeah,
on lap
I saw
1.
That.
So it was, one of the most extravagant and outlandish and well done. That's foreshadowing. It was one of the craziest crashes I've seen in motorsport in a long time. And it started with a minor crash involving Felix Rosenqvist? How do you pronounce it?
Rosenqvist, yeah.
Rosenqvist, in his number 6 Aero McLaren, and Scott Dixon. They made contact. Rosenqvist being shoved into light wall contact. The minor crash would cause a pileup where 6 cars would be wiped out. 2 whole teams were wiped out. Drivers involved were Helio Castroneves in the number 6 car, Simon Pagenaud in the number 60 car, Santino Ferrucci in the number 14, Benjamin Peterson, who is a rookie, in the number 55, rookie Stingray Robb, yes, that's his actual name, in the number 51 car, and Devlin DeFrancesco in the number 29 car. The extravagant part, if you've seen this, if you haven't, I'll try to get video of it and put it up on here if you're on the YouTubes, but I make no promises for that. Well, sometimes it's hard to get clips from NBC Sports. But
yeah, you think?
they're really protective of their property. I don't get it.
Yeah. Hugely.
So, but Devlin DeFrancesco's car was since airborne when T-boned by Benjamin Peterson's car. So came around the corner, car was sideways, ran into a bunch of other cars. Peterson came around the corner, T-boned. DeFrancesco's car went up in the air. It was a whole thing. I don't know why you did that there. Thankfully, none of the drivers were harmed. Outstanding Indy race. I am looking forward to the next event. I should have written down when it was. Nick, talk about something else while I figure out.
So, Formula One. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you can go to Formula One. That's fine. We can do that.
Actually, can we get rid of Superbike? I mean, cover it.
You know, I am going to do the Formula One section with you at some point, which I know is going to be tough for me because you are one of the world's biggest Fernando Alonso fans.
You know what's funny about this is I was actually telling myself ahead of this, I'm going to let you do the talking because coming from someone who isn't such a diehard fan, it means more. So,
you know, that's fair. I'm looking.
You're like, I hate that. That makes sense.
Our next IndyCar race is April. Is it really?
Is it really?
Holy! St. Petersburg, March 5th. I don't have IndyCar again until Texas Motor Speedway in April. Wow! No way. That's right. Is that right?
I mean, it sounds right.
Yeah. Look at that. April 2nd. Okay. Cool. Wow. All right. I did not think that it was that far apart.
So, hey, you want to go to Texas Motor Speedway for some IndyCar?
I am down to go to Texas Motor Speedway for some IndyCar. I will talk about World Superbike now because Nick isn't that fascinated by it. However, it was the best racing I did watch all weekend.
Already wrong. Starting World Superbike off on the wrong foot.
13 overtakes in 1 lap. I'm going to kick you from this session. So...
all that proves is that there was more overtaking, not better overtaking, so...
But didn't we make Formula 1 better now that people can overtake more? Isn't that what this was?
Formula 1 got better when you put good drivers in good cars.
So, World Superbike. Starting on Superpole. Nick doesn't know that he's muted right now, but... so, our Superpole on Saturday...
Tupac Rigatoni.
Yes, Toprak Ratskat-Leoglu and Andrea Locatelli locked out the front row for Superpole for race 1. Is the first time that there has been a 1-2 in a Superpole race since 2010 in Kyalami with Cal Crutchlow and James Toseland, which I was extremely surprised about. The Yamaha hasn't had a 1-2 in qualifying since 2010.
I'm more surprised that it was Cal Crutchlow that got it for him.
Honestly. So that was our Superpole race. Toprak Ratskat-Leoglu, followed by Andrea Locatelli. I was going to mess it up at some point. And then Alvaro Bautista, your championship leader, was in 3rd place, followed by his teammate Michael Rinaldi in P4. Now, race 1, well, it was run by Alvaro Bautista, which was very annoying because I really had my hopes out for Toprak Ratskat-Leoglu, who came 2nd, followed by his teammate Andrea Locatelli. Nick, I don't like you. Followed by Axel Bassani.
It'll never not be funny. I don't know what your problem is.
It's true. Followed by Axel Bassani and Danilo Petrucci, which I was super stoked to see, and an excellent result from Michael Vandermark, putting that BMW M1000RR in P6. He wouldn't have quite as much luck in race 2. I will put up all of the race results on the screen here. Moving on to our Superpole race, which is Sunday before race 2. It's different from Superpole qualifying because
so
World
weird.
Superbike has to be complicated because we have to have qualifying and then a race and then a sprint race to determine the starting order of race 2 for some reason. And it was a Toprak Ratskat, Leoglu, and Andrea Locatelli 1-2 once again. However, this time followed by 2 Kawasaki's of Alex Lowe's and Jonathan Ray. Now, if you're wondering where Alvaro Batista is, he crashed out during the race, so he ended up starting from P10. Now, for race 2, Alvaro Batista did end up winning the race from P10, which is
He won both races. Good for him.
He has won all the races this season so far. So Alvaro Batista on an absolute
tear. He's on a bender and not a Derek Bender. Or Darren Bender.
Right. Well done. You fumbled that one a bit too hard. So Alvaro Batista,
if I care,
having an absolutely outstanding season. Michael Rinaldi, his teammate, did crash out in turn 1, lap 1 of race 1. And for race 2, Loris Baz was declared unfit to ride in race 2. And something else I should mention is that, what's his name? Remy Gardner did not take place in the Super Pole qualifying or race 1 due to feeling ill. A huge high side on lap 7 for Michael.
He had a tummy ache. You know,
that's actually what it was.
He's a tummy ache survivor, and I respect Remy.
Yeah, so Loris Baz was unfit to ride in race 2. Baz has fractures in his right leg and ankle after a crash with Alex Lowe's in the Super Pole race.
That sounds miserable.
It sounds horrible. A huge high side for Vandermark on lap 7 after contact with Philip Oidel. Scott Redding goes down on lap 7. Scott Redding had a low side on lap 7. Those 2 crashes would bring out a red flag after a outstanding lap 7. Like I said before, 13 position changes. Scott Redding would turn that low side into a 10th place finish. That is going to do it for our World Superbike news. Our next World Superbike race is coming to you. Wow, a long time from now. Really? No shot. Wow, I need to be on top of this more. I'm slacking right now.
No, actually, I think we're doing really well.
Dude, 23rd of April. That's our next World Superbike race.
Oh, no.
Well, it's because they go to Europe. Right? So, that's going to do it for World Superbike. Nick Patty, would you?
Before we even get to F1, I have a question
Oh
about
my
F1.
gosh.
No, I have a question, Ben.
But that's getting to F1. That's getting to F1. Yes.
F1.
Yes.
What are the highlighted green boxes over certain drivers?
So that is our preseason predictions and how we're doing so far.
Okay, so I'll let you completely take that away. If you want, I'll run through qualifying. You can run us through the race, and then you can update us on where the predictions are.
By all means, go ahead, sir.
All right, so qualifying was an interesting qualifying because it wasn't exciting in the traditional sense where it's like, oh my god, so-and-so goes on pole, and then so-and-so goes on pole, and then so-and-so beats so-and-so. Like, it wasn't quite like that, but it was exciting for the fact that the field was covered by such a small margin compared to what we're used to.
And, it wasn't 1-2, 1-2. Like, it wasn't the teams stacked up.
Right. It was so spread out. So in Q1, I'm going to run through the whole order, and then I'll finish with the people that obviously got dropped out. We had Carlos Sainz in first, George Russell in second, Leclerc in third, Alonso fourth, Stroll fifth, Hulkenberg sixth, Verstappen seventh, Tsunoda eighth, Albon ninth, Perez 10th, Bottas 11th, Ocon 12th, Chocon, Hamilton 13th, Zhou Guanyu in 14th, Lando Norris in 15th. And then Logan Sargent was eliminated alongside Kevin Magnussen, Oscar Piastri, Nick DeVries, and Pierre Gasly. Logan Sargent setting the identical time to the tens of thousandths.
Yeah, it was the
Norris.
same time as Lando Norris.
But because Lando Norris set his first in the session, Logan Sargent took the fall. So we had those top 15 advance into Q2, where we had Charles Leclerc in first, Verstappen second, Russell third, Hamilton fourth, Sainz fifth, Alonso sixth, Perez seventh, Hulkenberg eighth, Chocon ninth, Stroll 10th. And then the 5 eliminated were Norris, Bottas, Zhou, Yuki Tsunoda, and Alex Albon. So the final 10 moving into Q3, our starting order was as follows. Verstappen and Perez on the front row, Leclerc and Sainz on the second, Alonso next to Torpedo Russell on the third, Hamilton and Stroll on the fourth, and then Ocon and Hülkenberg on the fifth row. Which Shelby and I were joking, and I'm going to give credit to Shelby for this joke because it was hers. But when they called in Charles and to save the extra set of softs, Shelby was like, no, bring it on in. If you drive any more shit will fall off the car. Like, our car will not survive. It won't stay together if you do any more laps.
So, if you didn't watch qualifying, Charles Leclerc did have multiple pieces of his car. Multiple. No contact. Had
At
no
different
contact.
points in the lap, too.
Had no contact with anybody. Charles Leclerc had multiple pieces of carbon fall off of his car during lap 1 of Q1.
Yeah.
It was a piece of a wing, piece of an end plate. There was a piece of the car was just falling apart.
Everything was, yeah. And it was funny, too, because it was like, we're not talking like the engineers noticed it on the data. It was chunks large enough that we're noticing it on wide-angle zoom shots on the straight.
Right,
where you
right.
can see the chunks of carbon coming off the car.
Right. These were big pieces flying off the car.
They were big ones.
Yeah, and like we said, Q1 was very interesting because 1st to 20th was covered by 1.2 seconds, which was,
if y'all will remember,
ridiculous.
To like, I don't know, maybe 2010, 2011? I don't remember what the rule was, but basically you had to qualify within a percentage of the leader's time. So, and I remember that, like, if you were a second and a half or 2 seconds off the leader, you didn't even qualify. Like, it was... And the fact that it was more than that. I'm sorry. It was definitely more. But the fact that not only is that rule no longer there, but the entire field, guys, we're talking like last year. You were fortunate if you were within a second and a half of the Red Bull, and
right.
We're talking the entire field, all within.
Verstappen to a rookie. So it was Carlos Sainz all the way down to Pierre Gasly. It was every car, first official qualifying session, everyone within 1.2 seconds of each other.
So that was huge. Moving to the race, Ben. First of all, I say before we run through the order, we have just a couple observations, comments,
broad topics.
Huge kudos to Lance Stroll. And I think if Alonso didn't get driver of the race or driver of the day, I think Stroll
should have had it for sure.
Yeah.
So if you recall, last episode, we talked about Lance Stroll and the fact that he was a very broken boy and has 2 broken wrists and a broken toe, as it turns out.
If you've watched Mandalorian, you'll get it. But Lance was broken. He broken.
So Lance Stroll should not have been in the car. He could not turn the wheel.
I thought that.
You know,
but he proved me wrong.
I was confident. I said, if Lance Stroll is in that car for race day, guaranteed will not finish in the points. Guaranteed.
Right.
Most confident thing I've ever said in my life.
Absolutely.
And I was no way that someone with 2 broken wrists and a broken toe can drive an F1 car.
No testing either. Not just those injuries and having had tested.
No testing. Nothing. Can drive an F1 car to be in the top 10. And not just in the top 10, P6.
Yeah.
There. He was up there. I mean, he finished in front of George Russell, which is frankly sad for George Russell. So I'm going to run through your finishing order, and as we go, we will talk about the important things.
I was going to say, let's just do like a brief comment after each driver. Like, Max, comment on the race.
So,
Checo and
Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
I mean, if you need to know anything, they never showed him throughout the whole race.
Well, and then
they never showed anything.
When they did, it was at the most inopportune moments, because I remember it cut to Max right when Alonso was going for his first move on George, I think. And I'm like, there's literally a battle going on. Further down the field, I could not care less about Max.
I mean, at some point, they were showing the battle for 18th place.
Yes. It was Norris and
Ocon,
yeah.
So it's but Max, at one point during this race, if you looked at the screen, it said Max Verstappen P1, Sergio Perez P2, plus 42 seconds.
Yes. Yeah.
He was 42 seconds ahead.
Well, to be fair, that gap was prior to his second pit stop.
Well, it was
Right.
pit stop strategy, but that's so far. Like, he was in a world of his own out for a Sunday drive. If you heard the post-race radio between Max and Christian comes on and is like, yeah, that was good. Well done. I think you drove a great race.
I think you won.
And Max is like, yeah, that was nice. I really enjoyed that. It's like, oh, that was nice. You enjoyed it.
Yeah,
That's
it's
good.
like their mates after going on a country cruise. They're like, oh, mate, nice job. That was fun, wasn't it? And they're like, yeah, mate, didn't even break a sweat.
That was good. Fantastic. Same time next week? All right, same time. And so P2, Sergio Perez. Well done.
Which, unfortunately, his race, I mean, especially after how close Perez looked in qualifying, in practice, in testing, I'm going to be honest, if you're Sergio Perez, I'm not comfortable with how far off I was off
from
Max.
your teammate. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think
he claimed it was because of the start once he was behind the Ferrari. The Ferrari was not a factor very soon into that race.
Right.
Regardless of why. Checo was not putting in laps that were faster than Max at any point.
Right.
So if I'm Checo, you get the points for the team. That's great.
Fantastic. Finish P2. Great.
But we saw preseason. What did Checo say? Well, I'm not here to just be the number 2. I'm here to fight for wins.
I'm here to fight for wins.
After this
if
last
you're
race,
12 seconds behind, you're not fighting for wins.
I don't think he has a choice. I think it's... Yeah.
Right. So Checo Perez, P2, well done. Had a nice little battle with... who was he battling with? Was it Leclerc?
Charles,
I think
before the car broke.
It was Leclerc. Foreshadowing. We'll get to that. All right. P3. Your bottom step of the podium. Your second loser of the weekend.
Yeah, and Ferrari was what? The 3rd and 21st loser? Oh.
Fernando Alonso, P3. Nick, take it away. It's all yours.
I cannot
The floor
tell
is
you.
yours.
Every single move that Fernando made, you can ask my wife. We were watching it on our bedroom TV, and I was sitting up in bed wearing my Fernando shirt, Fernando hat. I started drinking at 8 a.m. I went through 5 Peronis by the end of the race, and every single move, it was like, get in there. And I it's kind of sus, but I organically said, you beauty. And I was like, that's a little weird. The English is coming out of me. The English Sky Sports commentator is emerging. No, I mean, listen, I know I'm the most biased commentator out there when it comes to Fernando Alonso.
About as biased as it gets.
But you don't have to know that I'm biased to know that drive, inevitably when he ends up retiring, which will happen 48 years down the road,
yes,
that will be, I think, in his top 10 drives when they do those top 10 of drivers where, when Seb retired, top 10 Seb moments of brilliance, whatever.
Mm-hmm. This will be up
I think
there.
that drive will be one of them. So, race specifically, did not get a good start. And I'm not kidding you. When Stroll hit Fernando, I was like, if he has a puncture, I am going to,
Dude.
I literally would smash this bottle in half. And there's nothing to do with it, but I would just smash it.
When I saw that, so for starters, I went over to a friend's house and watched the race, and there was about 6 of us there, and it was very funny because they're all aware of Nick's being a fan of Fernando Alonso.
Man, I would have loved to hear how that ended.
When Fernando Alonso had a moment with one Lance Stroll, it was very funny because, well, my phone was sitting in the middle of the coffee table and we were just waiting for a phone call. It was like a game.
Never happened.
It was like 3 minutes. I bet you 3 minutes in, we get a phone call. And it was
so I turned to Shelby and I was like, okay, it's a long race. And I sat there and I was like,
57 laps.
I was like, if the Aston Martin's actually a faster car. But I'm so hesitant to actually be confident in the pace because I'm so used to getting my hopes up. Like with the Alpine, it's like, he qualified on the front row in Canada, and then he just tumble down the order. Or, oh, he was about to be pole in Melbourne.
Right.
Not even close. So I'm so hesitant. But he was faster. And then the second concern was, okay, he's faster, but there's no way the tires are going to have any life left in them.
Right.
So he battled his way past George. That was a good battle. Battled his way past Bottas, who got them on pit stop undercut. That move on Lewis Hamilton was sensational. And I think the most satisfying part of it was purely we've seen how many lockups and spins in testing happened in there. But not only that, it's knowing that it's on Lewis Hamilton. And not because of Alonso-Hamilton rivalry, but in terms of drivers who would be difficult to overtake, Lewis Hamilton
should be up
besides
there.
Max and Alonso himself. Those are the top three most difficult people to overtake.
And Sergio. Sergio is up there. Sergio's very
And so the
difficult
fact
to
that
overtake.
Alonso was able to dumb into the outside and then clear the back of the Mercedes and then also brake so late to get up the inside without killing his momentum. And I'm going to be honest, what I even thought was a more fantastic move was the first move on Lewis, which the snap oversteer he had was weird on exit. Like, that was freaky. And Alex Jacques, the F1 commentator, harkened back to it, and I remembered it. But when Alonso was running up on Lewis in the McLaren, and he was on Ferrari, he's like, all the time you have to leave the space, was that exact same move where he swung all the way to the inside and Lewis went to block. Or maybe it was Nico, but they ran him all the way off the track rather than leaving. The thing that I've said for a long time, and for more casual F1 fans or maybe more cynical pundits, that they have a hard time understanding is when people have the conversation of some of the most talented and greatest drivers, and I'm not saying top three, but when we're talking greatest drivers in the history of F1, I think Fernando every single day of the week deserves to be in that conversation. But unfortunately, because people are so emphatic on the numbers being there, but when Fernando is overtaking, it is something special. And the commentators acknowledge that. But, and a more extreme example of this is when he's going up from turn 3 to turn 4. Most drivers, when that car, the defending car, gets to the center or right third of the track, go, okay, I'm going to swing back to the outside. Fernando is and he did this in Barcelona, Spain, which you may have seen clips of in 2013 or whatever, in Ferrari, where it's like, oh, you'll go to the center? No, I am going all the way. I'll drop 2 wheels off. There's an instinctual, natural ability with Fernando that when people talk about the Alonso effect, unfortunately, his interaction with teams and team bosses has not been good. But when we talk about the greatest drivers, there is no shot that I think Fernando's outside the top 5 when we're talking natural ability. When people talk about, and oh my God, I'm going to make so many people mad right now. When we talk about Senna being the greatest, it's never because of his numbers. Nobody ever says Ayrton Senna's great because of his numbers.
Right, it's just his driving style. His driving style, and I would say the most poignant part of it would be his natural instinct. And I think if you are talking about the greatest drivers of all time with their natural instinct, I'm gonna make a top 5 off the top of my head. And this is in no order, but you have Senna, Gilles Villeneuve, Alonso, Verstappen, and I'll leave the 5th in there for Schumacher, Hamilton, whoever the listeners think deserves to be in that list, throw in the 5th. Insert one of the greatest of all time.
Right. But that's the thing that makes me so disappointed. I know I'm a fan, but even just fans of the sport, is if Alonso was in a top flight car, imagine all the years of Hamilton dominance, or where it's him and Vettel or him and Verstappen. Throw Alonso in a car equally as good, and you have some of the best racing on the face of the planet. And unfortunately, we just haven't had that. So anyways, Fernando Alonso managed his tires, fought past Russell, got him on pace. Fought past Hamilton, got him on pace. Fought past Sainz, got him on pace. This is just... And you know what's funny is I guarantee you people are going to be like, oh, well, that's just because the Aston Martin's a really good car this year.
It is.
Well, it is, granted, but nobody will ever admit, oh, maybe Fernando's as good as other people said he was. And
he's not.
You're right. Good point. I'm so glad I have you on here to counterbalance with your judgment. But anyways, if you're a fan of F1 and you just want to watch good racing, Fortunately for me, Fernando was the one to put that on display. He got driver of the day.
Well deserved.
Literally I didn't cry. I almost cried, but I was tearing up because here's the thing, guys. When you see the difference between Verstappen winning again his 36th race, and he's up there, and he goes, yeah, good job, Christian. Great job, guys. Alonso with each overtake was like, hell yes, this car's lovely to drive. And then when he gets out of the car.
Podium in 10 years?
No, we got a podium in 2021. Go screw yourself, dude.
Oh, sorry. Win
Cutter
in 10 years.
The Alpine.
It was a win in 10 years.
Yeah, his last win was 2013. But when he gets out of the car and he points at the crew, and then on the podium, his smile the entire time, it's so satisfying knowing that it's like he's gone so long and gone through so much shit. I genuinely cannot think of another driver that spent as long in the sport without retiring in garbage cars. Granted, that didn't ever leave a garbage car. I have never seen a winning driver stay in garbage cars as long. Mm-hmm. And so it's really rewarding. It's really satisfying, and I'm grateful that he, at 41, it took a while, is to the maturity level where it's easy to like him. You don't have to deal with the coarse, rough, pinprick edges of Fernando that turned a lot of people away from him. I'm just excited to show up to these races wearing my old Alonso merch and being, one of those fans that's been there. Like I said, childhood Christmas present. But
we noticed.
Did you? And I'll just conclude my Fernando rant with this. He's third in the Drivers' Championship, and Aston Martin is second in the Constructors. So, hear me out. I think, and I'm not changing my prediction because I know we made predictions and we made a bet. But if I had infinite knowledge, I would say that I think Aston Martin's going to get third in the Constructors ahead of Mercedes, because Mercedes, unfortunately, who am I kidding? Fortunately, is going the wrong direction. If Ferrari has reliability and strategy issues, even half as much as last year, especially with Aston already having the advantage on tire degradation. But then I'm almost like, should Aston sandbag? Yes, they should teabag on the opponents.
Oh my gosh.
Should they sandbag so that they get more R&D and wind tunnel time for next year and really put a challenge forward? Obviously, the answer is no. But that all being said, Ben, who was fourth?
Okay, so we are 8 minutes and 30 seconds later. We are going to move on to fourth place.
Hey, that was shorter than I thought it was.
That is much shorter than I thought it was going to be. Fourth place, we had one Carlos Sainz for Ferrari.
You never said what you thought of Fernando's drive.
You said everything that there could possibly be said to say.
As a non-Fernando fan.
As a non-Fernando fan, as a general fan of Formula One, Fernando Alonso's drive was nothing less than exceptional.
It was nothing more than garbage.
It was genuinely awful. It was nothing less than exceptional. Like Nick said, he passes like no one else on the grid. His driving style is clearly been perfected and tuned by 22 years of being in the sport, which, makes him old.
Alonso's getting a win this year, I'm telling you. Red Bull's going to have some problem.
Probably, yes. So I think Fernando's drive was incredibly impressive, and that is all I have to say about that. Now, Something that I have even less to say about is Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, nothing.
I had kind of a very just meh race.
It was very disappointing.
There was not much was happening. He got passed by Fernando and not by Lewis, and that was really it. And that's
which
kind of
I guess goes to
happened.
show how weak the Mercedes is, because the Mercedes could fight a little bit with the Aston,
right?
But it caught up to the Ferrari and just didn't have anything for it.
Just sat there
with the Ferrari power advantage, because obviously Aston using a Mercedes motor, they're pretty equal, even with DRS.
Right.
But when he got up to the Ferrari, the Mercedes engine just does not have the legs on it. And then, obviously, Fernando's advantage is the Aston was faster than the Mercedes, so in the corners it was able to outperform the Ferrari to make up for that deficit. But Mercedes didn't have the cornering performance, and it was down in straight lines. So,
faux show. Moving on to that first Mercedes.
Ben's like, whatever, faux show, shut up.
Anyway, Lewis Hamilton, P5, which...
Good for him.
Good for him. Well done.
I never thought I'd say that. Wait, no, screw him.
Significantly better position than Mercedes was in last year, even though George Russell finished fifth. George Russell finished fifth last year. I think they actually just swapped places.
Finishing positions, probably.
From last year. So Lewis Hamilton, P5, had some pretty decent battles with some people, but overall, decent race. Well done, Lewis Hamilton. Now, P6. A man that I expected to be much further down.
Yeah.
Much lower. Lance Stroll.
Well, Shelby and I, for the first time in our lives, said, "Get him, Lance," or "Yeah, let's go, Lance." And we're like,
wait a minute, what?
That's
the same thing. It's like, what is happening right now? Why?
I told Shelby, I was like, I will cheer for him
as
long as he's behind Fernando. Other than that, yeah.
Well, this is something I wanted to talk about. He was 3 places behind Fernando with 2 broken wrists and a broken toe. Just saying. Could be quite good this year. So, well done to Lance Stroll for finishing the race in the condition that he was in, and well done for a P6. Well done, Lance Stroll. I'll say it. I don't know if I'll get to say it for the rest of the season, but well done, Lance Stroll.
Right. Well, you'll say it when he inevitably takes out Alonso.
Yes. Attaboy, Lance. You're my hero. So, Mr. Patty, any comments on our brittle Canadian?
That wasn't funny.
Well,
no, I mean, nothing more than I already said in the sense that he did a super drive. And listen, that is the type of drive and driver I hope, and I've hoped that Fernando would have. The fact that on a bad day, Lance was able to get points to help the team, that's fantastic. Like,
well done.
Yeah.
Moving on to someone that I was surprised finished this low, George Russell, P7. I expected a bit more out of George. I figured he'd be top 5 for sure. Is kind of what I thought. I thought he'd finish ahead of Lewis. So,
I thought that. I mean, I didn't know if it was going to be top 5 or not.
I mean, but I expected 1 or 2 cars to DNF out of the top 3 teams, so I expected him to be up there. But George Russell overall having a fairly, non-dramatic, pretty standard race. At one point was asking if Lewis could go any faster. Said he had more pace than Lewis. Don't know what happened there, if that was strategy or pit rotation or what. Nick, Patty, any comments?
Russell, I'm going to be honest, was pretty underwhelming. And that's about all I got to say about that. But there was really nothing impressive about it.
Moving on to P8, Valtteri Bottas having what I would go with is it's a very solid finish for what is a midfield team. Where did they finish last year? 6th?
Something like that.
In the constructors, 6th, maybe 7th. I mean, they were not good. So, well done to Valtteri. Had some really good battles with Lance Stroll. Not at all a statement I thought I would ever say. But well done to Valtteri Bottas. Hopefully Alpha can stay ahead of the Alpines and Williams. I'd like to see them do well this year. Speaking of Alpines, sadly, Pierre Gasly in P9. Nick, Patty, your comments, questions, and thoughts.
Actually, an impressive race from him, as much as I hate to admit it. But I'm so thankful Alonso left Alpine. Holy crap.
This is not good.
This just confirmed it. I mean, this was
confirmed. Alpine is not doing great this year. Now, someone who is doing great this year, P10, Alex Albon. Now, Alex is a driver that Nick and I both commented on in our preseason prediction podcast. Yeah, in our quadruple P podcast, or whatever. That episode that we did, it was like episode 35. We both said that Albon would do better than Sargent, which ended up being true, not by much, but definitely did better. And
right.
I think Albon is one of those people that if you put him in in Alpha, or a couple years ago I would have said McLaren, but if you put him in something like in Alpha or maybe in Alpine, he could do better. Maybe. I don't know. But the Williams does look solid this year, so well done to Alex Albon. Nick, anything to add to that?
No, Alex Albon did great. And he's further proved that he's a very good driver, a very solid driver. Do I think he'll ever be a number one driver on a top team? No. But I think he'd be a very good number two. I mean, when Checo has his run done at Red Bull, maybe they try to bring him back. I would not be surprised at all.
They took Daniel back, so who knows? So Daniel Ricciardo, who, by the way,
the winner of 2023.
If anyone is winning the 2023 season, it is Daniel Ricciardo, which we'll get to in a minute. P11, Yuki Tsunoda. I was rather surprised by this. I did not expect him to be. I did not expect him to be up here. I would have expected a P14, maybe a P15. But Yuki Tsunoda putting in a solid result for AlphaTauri. Pretty for Yuki Tsunoda, drama-free race.
Good drive, yeah.
Which is good. Hopefully Yuki is starting to, I don't want to say mature, but mature and kind of mellow out and get in a groove and start to gel with that AlphaTauri and hopefully have a good season this year. Maybe put in a couple points finishes for AlphaTauri. Yeah. That'd be nice to see. Nick?
Basically, that's it. Yeah. I think he turned the corner.
Now, P12. Doing it for America, Logan Sargent, who for a substantial amount of this race was in the points. Yeah. I was running P9 or P10 for a couple laps. I was stoked to see it.
Beat Nick DeVries, who's already had a race in F1.
And Oscar Piastri. He was the highest finishing rookie of the race, which was...
His name is Pastry.
I was stoked to see. We'll get to Pastry.
Croissant.
Stellar drive from Logan Sargent. I mean, if you're a rookie, your standards
are finish the race.
You're expected to finish. You're not expected to finish in points. I don't think you're even expected to finish
above
spots
your teammate,
behind your teammate. So I think that will. Oh my gosh!
You know what? I've retired. I'm gone.
Nick thinks Formula One is golf. So Logan Sargent, solid drive. Well done, P12. Nick Patty, your comments on Mr. America.
Doing it for Dale. Next.
Doing it for Dale. That sums it up. Now, someone who has not been having a good start to their season is K-Mag. One Kevin Magnussen.
Yeah, horrible.
4 Haas.
Dog water.
Pretty much. Moving on.
Then again, it's a Haas, so...
This is, the Haas. You think, Hulkenberg, qualified P6.
When are we going to figure out that Haas is trash?
We had hopes.
Why are we fooling ourselves, guys?
We know that, but we have hopes that the start of the season they'll kind of figure some stuff out. It doesn't happen.
Hey, I got one for you. If we think that they might figure it out, it's their 7th year in the sport, and they still have Gunther Steiner. Granted, he's hilarious. That doesn't win you races. Why has he not been fired? It is the biggest mystery in the Formula One paddock. Gunther Steiner, when everything is on the team principle... Okay, you know what? Yeah, these are my comments. You opened up this goddamn can of monkeys, barrel monkeys, can
I'm
of
just going to mute you now. No,
you're not. Whore. That needs to be a YouTube short. So...
I don't know if I can make that a YouTube short. But okay.
Gunther Steiner has delivered 0 results for the team. Why is he still hired?
Because he's the most important person in Formula One.
Okay. Next.
Nick DeVries. Or DeVries, if you're anyone with a radio. Nick DeVries for AlphaTauri, finishing P14. Now, decent result. He's a rookie. We kind of expected a lot, given that he's 27 and gone.
And he had a points finish in Williams in his first race.
There was that. So, but to be fair, it also appears the AlphaTauri is worse than the Williams, is what it looks like.
I would have to agree.
Yuki Tsunoda lost to Alex Albon, who has, granted, yes, more experience, but he just barely beat Logan Sargent, who's a rookie. So I'm going to go with that. Williams is pretty stout. So Nick DeVries, pretty average drive. That's about it.
Yep. Next.
Nico Hülkenberg for Haas. Who I thought would do so much better than this.
Still don't know why.
No. I'm not talking Fernando Alonso levels of better. I'm talking like Yuki Tsunoda, like a P11, like a just under the top 10 up there. I expected him to be
barely getting those results in a Renault, let alone a Haas.
I expected him to be in front of Magnussen. That was about it. That was the
Why?
bar. Magnussen.
Haas, but Magnussen drove the Haas last year. If anything, I'd say no. Magnussen has more recent experience. Of course, he's going to do better.
Because we both said Nico Hülkenberg was going to do better than Magnussen this year.
This year, right?
That's
but
true.
It's the first
That's
race.
true.
If you would have asked me who's going to finish higher in the first race, I would have probably predicted everybody that has experience over the rookies.
That's
which
fair.
in the case of Williams is the case. In the case of McLaren is also true. And then
in the case of
AlphaTauri is true as well.
In the case of everyone, that is true. The driver with more experience finished in front. Crazy. What a concept.
Except for Red Bull.
P16. Oh, true. P16, Zhou Guanyu for Alfa Romeo. Now, I thought this was actually a pretty terrible drive from Zhou. I expected a bit more, especially considering
Bottas got 8.
Bottas got 8.
Yeah.
However, Zhou did get, squeaking it in right at the end, fastest lap. Which I think
right.
Most people overlooked because it was, I think, his second to last lap.
But it doesn't matter because it gets canceled.
Doesn't matter because he's
so.
P16.
Thanks, Joe.
Which I found that quite interesting that no one in the top 10 went for a fastest lap. They were all just like, just finish the race, get points.
I don't think there was deltas wide enough to allow them to.
Except for Max, that would have been it.
Well, right.
So that was, Zhou Guanyu hopefully picks it up this year. Now here's where things start to get rough. P17. If you're wondering, there's
if you're
a
like,
team.
Wait, where are the McLarens?
Where are the McLarens? Well, we found them. They're right down here.
We need to have a segment called "Where's the McLaren?"
P17.
Oh, Lord.
Lando Norris. This was one of the hardest things to watch. Lando Norris. Now, I know that Nick is kind of a hater. Not a hater, but not a supporter.
I'm not a supporter when he's the reason Ricciardo got dropped.
Apparently he shouldn't have been, though. Turns out
1,000%.
Zach Brown.
It turns out it's not your 8-time winner who's a Red Bull star. Turns out it's your dog shit car.
You know,
maybe if you spent as much time developing the car as you did electronic advertising boards, you'd know how to compete and finish in the top 10.
You know, normally I'd get upset at Nick.
I'm just screaming at the computer.
Which is very annoying because I'm going to have to go and quiet this down later. So normally I'd be upset at Nick for screaming at the computer and being upset about things because it's racing and at the end of the day, technically none of it matters. However, everything you just said was correct. The McLaren is horrible. It is
almost impressive. Actually, we need to take a step back.
It is the worst car on the grid. It is.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
It has horrible reliability.
Horrible degradation.
When it did have reliability, it was struggling to pass an Alpine who was running P17 when Norris was 18th. Oscar Piastri, like 16 laps into the race, had to pit to swap a steering wheel because they were like, oh, you have an electrical issue, we're going to swap the steering wheel. And then they just couldn't get the car to work. So they're like, yep. Congrats, welcome to McLaren. Thank you for starting a whole Twitter fight over this and like almost getting us sued. Welcome to the team.
I bet he is kicking himself right now.
But here's the thing though. Like Alpine also retired. Esteban Ocon retired from the race, and even Pierre Gasly. Yeah,
but he didn't
Gasly
retire
finished...
because of unreliability. He retired because he's so stupid. He can't line his car up on the grid. He can't serve a penalty right. Well, that's his mechanic's fault. And then he can't even do the pit lane speed limit properly. That's Ocon's fault. Ocon is fair. The problem. End of story.
But yes, I do think that sadly.
Not sadly.
Sadly, I think Nick is right.
Oh.
And I think Nick is right.
Hey, guys. I'm Nick.
And his prediction of Oscar Piastri being the biggest flop of the year is accurate. Which I'm very upset about that.
How are we doing the predictions? Is it going to be 1 point for each race where our prediction was correct, or is it only going to be at the end of the season we tally up the numbers? Like, how are we doing it?
I don't know. I'm going to tally it up every race just in case we get to the end of the season and, like, all we got right was Max. So, like, if we get to the season and we were just all wrong, but we both predicted Max being, P1, like, all we predicted together was Max
and Alonso,
and Fernando and Lando and Zhou. That's it.
Well, meaning, like, in terms of which teammate did better, that stuff at the end of the season, we'll see who had the most.
Yeah, so all the other predictions, if you haven't watched our prediction episode, go watch that. That's episode 37, if memory serves me right. Go watch our prediction episode. It's labeled our F1 preseason predictions. But at the end of the season is when we're going to tally up most of this because we predicted constructors, we predicted rookie rosters, Which
what was your order again?
I think we had the same. No, we had different orders. I put Logan Sargent P1, De Vries 2, Piastri 3.
Yeah, I'm gonna regret putting Piastri second.
You put Sargent first, Piastri second, De Vries third.
Yeah.
So far, I am winning the rookie roster, but
I did in the drivers' championship put Piastri last.
You did put Piastri last. So far, that's good. So I'm gonna go over kind of our. I'm going to do a little update on the preseason prediction. Now, here's the thing. I'm not going to go race results every race based on our prediction because this is championship finishing order. Right. This is standings. So after every race, I'll compare our predictions to the standings. Because, like, if Piastri finishes, like, second, like, 8 races from now, that'll throw off the whole thing. So every race, I'm going to tally up our predictions with the standings.
Whatever you say.
And we'll compare there. But so far, this is the standings.
Am I winning? That's all I want to know.
You're currently winning.
Okay.
You're currently winning driver prediction. We both predicted Max Verstappen P1. Well done. You predicted Pierre Gasly would be 9th in the championship, which is correct so far. I predicted Albon would be 10th in the championship, which is correct so far. And you predicted that Piastri would be last, which is technically true because he DNF'd first.
Right. So basically, because this race is the only race, that's why the drivers make sense right now.
Right now, this makes sense. However, next race, I'll actually have to go and look at the standings, which is why I've got the spreadsheet, and we can do it. There'll be a whole thing. I spend too much time on this, whatever.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt.
Without a shadow of a doubt. But it makes me happy. So far, Nick is leading. What else are we looking at here? Constructors. So far, let's see. You put Ferrari finishing P1 in the constructors, you psychopath. You also put. Oh, we both put McLaren finishing P5. Yikes. Unfortunate. Let's see. I put Mercedes second. You put Mercedes third.
Yeah.
We both put Aston Martin fourth, which so far looks like we're both going to be wrong.
Yeah.
McLaren fifth, wrong. I put Alpha sixth. You put Alpha. No, you put Alpha sixth. I put Alpha seventh. We might be severely wrong on some of these.
Well, to be fair, that's why they're called preseason predictions.
To be fair, they are preseason
and that's why we
predictions.
Made that is because it could go either way.
Literally anything could happen.
Oh god, I can't wait to have that outer shell Aston Martin jacket. Oh.
And so far Nick has 1 point for his surprise podium, which is Fernando Alonso.
Did you not put Alonso as your surprise podium?
No, I put Nico Hulkenberg as my surprise podium.
I'm going to walk away with this.
So
basically, my surprise podium being correct is going to negate me putting Ferrari first in the constructors. So really, we're even.
Yeah, so essentially, I'm going to count everything as 1 point is what's happening to simplify things. So, your surprise winner being Alonso, 1 point for you. Well done. That sort of thing. But, if I get, I put Red Bull top of the constructors, if that happens, I get 1 point,
Right.
that sort of thing. So like everything's 1 point. It's not like
Right. No,
constructors is worth more than all
of
random
course,
questions
of
or
course.
whatever. It's all of the questions and all the things are worth the same. I mean, let's see. You put your surprise flop as Piastri. I put mine as Gasly.
Worked from last to ninth, and you said he's going to be the flop.
Dude, he qualified 9th. I was stoked. I was like, it's beginning. It's happening. It's working right now. And then just freaking
Pastry in 20th. Let's
McLaren
go.
had to go and brake. Like, I'm so annoyed. I mean, let's see. Is there anything else crazy that we predicted? I don't think so. I think that's it. Let's see.
All I
as
know
far
is
as
my Lewis Hamilton 7th in the Drivers' Championship is looking more likely than not.
that is terrifying, by the way. That is terrifyingly accurate. Because I put...
Where did I put Stroll?
You put Stroll...
10th? Oh, yikes. That is way off.
That is so not happening. Yeah. To be fair, I put him 9th. So I mean, it's. I mean, yeah. I think I'm more stuck with the fact that I think neither of us are getting our P2 predictions correct. I'm going to go ahead and say
P2
that.
for drivers.
Yeah. George, you put Charles. I don't know about that one. That one's looking pretty strong.
I think mine is more likely than yours. You're chopped.
Yes.
You are out in the woods.
Dude, I was betting on that Mercedes being a rocket this year, and boy, was I wrong. Well, Nick, I think that's going to about do it.
Yes, I do have one thing to say before we go, though.
Oh, my
No, listen, you normally say anything you want to say before we go, but you did this time.
Nick
so I had
Patty,
to
any
jump
final
in.
questions, comments,
Yeah,
concerns?
actually, I do have a comment, a question, and maybe a concern. Damn it. I just want to thank everybody because our last YouTube video within 24 hours has 27 views. So thank you to everybody for checking out the YouTube, heading over to that platform, like, subscribe on the channel. But I logged on to check it out, and I was extremely happy and surprised that we had, it's reached 27. So thank you so much. And yeah, we're hoping to continue growing and to continue bringing this content.
I mean, no record-breaking numbers, but progress is progress, so we'll take it.
You know what? Progress is progress. Like Aston didn't win, but they got a podium, so we'll take it.
This is true. And on that note, that's going to do it for episode 40. We've reached 40 episodes, which I am stoked about. So if you've made it this far into the episode, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. If you have been listening to this, make sure whatever audio platform you're listening to this on, we are on all of them. Make sure you give us a follow, a rating, and a review. It helps us very much. If you're watching this, hi. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on the notification bell, make sure to like and share the video. It helps us grow. We want to make more content for a greater audience. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. This has been episode 40 of The Clutch.